Michael, what's up, man? Glad to have you on. I know we're in a little bit of a time crunch today, but I'm super stoked to have you on and get to talk about hopefully some marketing, some life stuff, all that jazz. But say hello to everybody.
What's up, everybody? What's up, Babs? Thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited for this chat as well.
Yeah, man. So tell me about what let's dive into here is you're the chief marketing officer. I got that right. I
Mhm.
don't know why. I had it up
Yep.
in my notes, so they just disappeared. So now I'm like, all right, great. So anyways, so you're the chief marketing officer for a company called Youtech.
Yep.
And for one, I'm stoked to have you on because I'm myself a marketing major. Marketing's always been super intriguing to me, and that's obviously I chose that for a reason because I like it. But how did you find yourself in that position? And the only reason I asked that is because like you had mentioned before we got on here that you're like, yeah, I didn't want to do marketing at all. Like you're like, I did
Yeah.
not, like I hated it, and then boom, you're like, now I'm in charge of this company's marketing that is a marketing firm as well. So it's crazy to me that all came together.
Yeah. It was an interesting journey, man. I'll tell you that. When I was a kid, I'll take you way back. So
Let's do it.
when I was like 10 years old or something,
Hmm.
my parents owned a marketing firm, and they specifically work with like colleges and universities and things like that, and they'll do marketing with them. But my dinner conversations always centered around marketing, like all the time. And
No
I had
way.
no idea what was going on as a kid. My stepdad, my mom had talked about all these things, and I'm like, all right, whatever. And then you grow up, and I was a rebellious teen, I think, like most, and
Yeah.
I was like, I'm definitely not gonna do what they do. It sounds so stupid. I've been
Hmm.
listening to it for decades, like, well, I guess not decades, but it seems like decades, and I just did not want to do that. So I ended up going to college, and I wanted to be an English teacher originally, and then I think it was a history teacher, and I learned that whether it's true or not, someone told me along the way that a male history teacher is the most common teacher out there. So I
Okay.
was like, oh, that's probably not
That is so I'm
what I
gonna
want to
stop you
do.
just for a second, but that's so funny
Yeah,
because that's something I wanted to do. I've always wanted I like just liked history and I always wanted to do it. And I always noticed that growing up, it was like all my history teachers have been guys, like
yeah,
and I wanted to do it, but then I ended up really going another route and I chose it because I was like, I don't know about the money, yada yada yada, which
sure,
unfortunately
yeah,
that's how I had people in my life inputting that at the time, so I chose something different.
sure.
But you never know where that goes. But it's so you're so right. It's like all male teachers. It's kind of funny that's kind of like the
Yeah.
stereotype. We had some really cool teachers though that were history teachers. I will say that. Like they were all cool.
I think that's why I wanted to do it,
I
because
think
I
so
always had
too.
cool history teachers.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it was like an easy
always.
subject. It wasn't bad. You got to like make jokes if you wanted to. I don't know. Our teacher was
Yeah.
the last history teacher we had. It was his like last year and he was retiring. So he just like did not care. And he was like having fun with us. He'd be like he'd be like, "Oh, you got the best grade in the class. Like you're number 1." And he would just like casually like flick you off as he was like doing it. I mean, it was we had a good time. We'd still talk about that teacher, me and some of my friends. He's just a funny guy.
Yeah, man, I was in the same boat, and I think that's why I chose English too, was because I had some really cool English teachers along the way. And but the history teachers were always the best. I remember I had kind of a mix. There were some young guys, and then there were also like the old guys, like you're talking about, where you literally could sleep in their class and they just would not care. So
Oh,
maybe
that
that
was
was what I was gunning for. I wanted that in my career. I wanted
I
to be
was
able to
that
sleep
teacher.
at my
I was that student that was just sleeping at the
desk.
desk and then like, oh, I passed history. But I mean, I did love history. I don't know what it was. I don't know
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
is about history. I could sit and like watch history documentaries, war documentaries just all day and just be content.
Have you ever heard of I think it's George Carlin's Hardcore History podcast?
Um yes, I have. I actually have it. I haven't listened to many episodes um yet. The other one I do listen to is the History Hyenas. I don't know if you've heard of
Oh, I
them.
don't know that one.
They're like two younger New York style comedians and they have like guests on and the guests kind of like ask them what they want to talk about. They kind of give them the idea what they want to talk about and then they'll so each episode's a different part in history and they also are
Cool.
like they're comics. So it's also like funny. There's a lot of tangents that happen But they're funny guys. Like I listened to one recently with like they had Joey Diaz on. I'm not sure if you know. Do you know who
Oh
Joey
yeah, yeah.
Diaz is? So they had Joey Diaz on. It was just wild, of course, because Joey Diaz is just a wild character, and they talked about something. But yeah, those both podcasts are really good.
Yeah, highly recommended. But anyway, I figured out that that wasn't going to be for me. So I did not know what I wanted to do, knew it wasn't marketing, and I decided I was going to go to law school because I was like, I'm a pretty smart guy. I can do this. You know, like growing up, everyone always told me I was like really smart. I should be a lawyer, an attorney. I like to argue. I think that's like the general thing people say to you when
You
you're
like to
argumentative.
argue? You should be a lawyer.
Yeah, so I got a lot of that, and I got a job as a law clerk over the summer. Well, I was still in my undergrad and everything. I never went to law school, but I got a job there, and it was a family law firm, which basically all they do is divorce. And so
Oh,
I got
so
to see
lovely.
like it was terrible. It
So
was so
lovely. Such a
bad.
lovely work environment.
Yeah, man. I mean, I from like day one, the head attorney was like, "You don't want to do this. Like, you just don't do
Oh
this." I was
God.
like, "Oh, okay." But that, I was still doing it, and
Right.
I was going through files and everything, like helping them out. And I'd walk around the corner, and one dude I was helping out, and he'd be literally sleeping at his desk, sitting up straight up, is because he has been up for like 4 days trying to work on this case. And I was like, "Dude, that's not what I want to do." So I ended up changing my major to philosophy because I liked it, just pretty much because I liked it. And I ended up graduating. I was like, screw it, I gotta get out of here. I was in school for 5 years, and I was like, I gotta just like graduate, and then I could go do something. So I
Reasonable.
fell back on. What'd you say?
I said pretty reasonable. I understand that. I have friends that are in the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
boat. I
yeah.
have friends that are in the boat like right now. They're like, I just gotta get out of here. Like yeah, maybe.
Well, all my friends graduated in 4 years, so I was like, I gotta get out of here, man. There's nothing left to do.
Right, right.
So I fell back, and my parents offered me a job at their marketing agency, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. I have nothing better to do. Like, this seems like a good gig. I'll figure it out. I'll learn some things from them, and I'll move forward. And so I went there. They started me out as a project manager, and they kind of, obviously, like, I was their son, so they were teaching me all kinds of things outside of what my normal job duties would be too. And they were, really going hard on that. And um, I thought about staying there, but I had this opportunity where I someone who I went to college with, she was just like this girl that I would hang out with sometimes. She was like a friend of my
Hmm.
friend. She was in the art program, and we kind of knew each other, but not really. Like like we knew each other's names and stuff, but like I don't know, we weren't like great connections. She reached out to me one day, Facebook DM, I think, and asked me how much I liked my job because they were looking for a project manager at this other agency,
Oh,
Youtech,
okay.
which is where I currently work.
Right, right.
And so I went in, I interviewed, I got the job, and um, everything went great. I mean, it was a super cool company. At the time, there were 10 employees. The CEO actually started the company in his parents' basement when he was 22 with like $600. He incorporated the
I
business and he
read
called
that.
100 companies a day.
I read that where it was like started with $500 in his pocket. Like
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's so crazy.
yeah. Well, he had two prior businesses that failed, and he borrowed a ton of money for those. So with this one, he took everything he learned, and he was like, you know what? I can't borrow more money
It's
from
do or die.
anyone
Yeah.
anywhere. Yeah, so he just did it. He literally called like 100 companies a day, and 98, 97 of them would say no. But 2, 3 would say yes.
Hmm.
And he just was persistent at it, and got out of the basement. By the time I got there, it was a real business. We had an office and stuff.
Yeah.
But it started out as just like a web design company, and then we kept moving on and added all these marketing services in. And I was working with my clients, and I got to be very hands on in like all different aspects of marketing, like content writing, SEO, social media, pay per click advertising, email marketing. I was doing like all these different things. So I got to learn a ton. And at the time, we didn't have a ton of marketing clients. So it kind of gave way for me to just like move on up as the everything grew.
Right,
So
right.
fast forward to today, we've got 60 employees. We've got 2 locations. We're opening up a third location, maybe Dallas. We're talking about Dallas right now, but COVID has kind of like threw a
Pushing
wrench in
that one
that, so
back.
that's on
Right,
pause.
right.
Yeah. but no, it's been a good journey, man, and I've learned so much over the years, and I'm happy to do it now. And I get the cool job now of going on podcasts to I don't know, promote us, promote myself,
Yeah.
and do all that. I do a lot of other things too, but this is just part of it.
So you get in with the company, as you said, and I'm sorry, my headphones were a little low, but you said project manager.
Project manager. That was
Gotcha.
my original position. Yeah.
So what exactly does that, for those who don't know, and all that, like, what does that entail as a job? Because you're, I'll let you explain it. I want to know, like,
Yeah, yeah,
what precisely does that entail? Is, in my head, I'm thinking, all right, you're assigned to certain projects, and obviously you're managing like that the rest of the company's parts are moving along. So the
yeah,
whatever, the marketing division is doing their part for the company, and then you take it to film or whatever. I'm just using that as an example. But go ahead, I'm
yeah.
curious.
That's pretty much it. I mean, when we post jobs on like Indeed and stuff, we always have to type in marketing project manager, because there are a lot of project
There are.
managers in various different fields that means completely different things. But in our case, it's keeping projects on timeline, making sure things don't get out of scope. It's coordinating all the internal departments to make sure that things get out on time. So you might be working with the content team over here, making sure they get everything written. Then you've got to get that to the design team to make sure they can formulate a design
Mhm.
around that. And then you've got to work with the SEO team to make sure that they're implementing the content on the website, and that it's ranking well with all the proper keywords in it and everything like that. So it's just making sure everything goes well. And then it's also talking to the client quite a bit. It's face to face with the client.
Yeah.
They kind of make sure that that relationship is good and
You got to be a
really
big people
establish
person
that.
for that job. You got to be a big people person. Talking to
Yeah,
everyone. You're talking to
definitely.
everybody.
Organized too. But when I started, when I was project manager, I was managing everything. Like, I was just doing all the work all the way around
Oh,
for
dang.
this particular client I was working on. So that was why I got my hands wet with. Is that a phrase? Hands wet?
Yeah.
Hands are dirty.
Yeah.
Hands dirty. Got my hands dirty with all that kind of stuff.
So did you? I want to take a step back because I had this question, but was you chose philosophy as your major? Did you
I
end up with
did.
philosophy? Is that like what you graduated with too?
I did. Yeah, I
Really?
did.
Oh, that's freaking cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so what? Give us something like what is one of the more philosophical things that you enjoy pondering on?
Oh man. I
Because
mean,
I took philosophy
people
myself and
always
I
ask me
loved
this.
it. I liked it. I
Yeah, yeah,
did. It
yeah.
was fun to sit there and like debate the fallacies and all these different things. So I'm curious if you've got one that we can dive into.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody who I know who's taken a philosophy class likes it. It's fun because you get to sit there and like talk through various problems.
Hmm.
It kind of teaches you how to think about things, and I think that's really valuable.
And it
So
showed
I don't regret
the
that.
other thing I think it shows too is because when you're in that class, I don't know what your classes were. Mine, there's 100 of us thrown in this room for philosophy, and the teacher presents what we're talking about. We're putting in different groups, but like everyone is so different. Everyone, like, you might have a good group that like as a consensus, like
Yeah,
everyone might
yeah,
agree, but how they agree on that is so different. And that was always cool to me during the conversations and the class conversations, was to see the different sides. And then not only that, to see
yeah,
how each individual person is thinking about like that particular uh fallacy and philosophical thing we were talking about that
yeah,
day. And it made me think like, oh wow, we all like, oh, I never looked at it that way. Like, they might
yeah, yeah,
agree, we
yeah.
might agree on the same exact thing, and I'm like, how did you get that? I got this, and they're like, well, how did you get that? And then you start talking about it, and it's just, I don't know. That's something a big plus of it. I think that people like to overlook, but it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I took an ethics class that was like that quite a bit, and so what we would do is we would talk about one side of an argument, and then like the next reading would be about the other side of the argument. And every time we'd come in, everyone would be like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I read the reading. Like, I'm fully in. That makes sense." And then you come in the next class, and you're like, "I completely flipped positions after reading that, because now that makes so much sense too." But I remember, I know you were asking me for like an example. We were talking about the death penalty at one point. I don't know if
okay.
we want to go this route. Do you
Let's
want to
do
go this
it.
route?
Yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, all
I mean, we
right.
talked about the death penalty in ours too. So,
Okay, yeah,
but you probably went way more in depth in it. But yeah, go ahead. So, what were you saying? To
yeah.
present the death penalty as
So
a moral
I
or
thought it was
immoral?
interesting. Yeah, like, the class was kind of divided, and yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about it in terms of like, whether it's justified that someone should be killed versus just spending life in prison, right?
Hmm.
And it was coming down to questions about like resources with prisons and like
Yeah.
should we spend all this taxpayer money to keep people alive and all that kind of stuff. And what it ultimately came down to for a lot of us was, um, is it moral to have someone know the exact like time that they're going to die for weeks in advance leading up to that date? And it's kind of like torture when you think about it. Like, I'm gonna die Tuesday at 2 p.m. is the exact time I die, and you're just sitting there in a cell waiting for Tuesday at 2 p.m. And
Dang, I
once
never
it was
thought of it like
presented
that.
like that, yeah, that kind of
This is what
changed
I'm talking
everybody's
about.
viewpoints.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about right there. Yeah, I never, we did not go into that depth of that, but that's very interesting. Yeah, like I could not imagine sitting there and like knowing like I've got 5 days, I got 4 days, like I got 3,
yeah,
like, and it's just going down, and then you're just there's nothing you can do. I wonder how that is if you're in that position and you're sitting there and you're like I feel like me, I'd be like, I gotta get, like, I gotta break, I gotta do something, I gotta do something crazy because like, why does it matter? Like, why is like I gotta try to get out of here? Like, I might as well make a run for it. Like, I don't know. That's
yeah. I
nuts.
mean, I think I'd be in the same boat, man. I would not want to be there regardless.
No,
I don't
I
know
would
what I
not
would
want to be
do,
there.
but
What would
I think you get a last meal.
I was about to
I'd
ask?
probably get some pizza.
I was about to ask what your last meal would be because that's something I think
Oh,
everyone, you've all had those like discussions. You're all like around the bonfire or something. You're like, all right, let's like get to know people. And you're like, what would your last meal be or something? Like,
what's yours?
oh, I probably would want a steak if I'm really honest.
Steak.
I
Yeah,
could. I like steak, and I would probably want that to be my last
nice
meal.
ribeye.
Yeah, yeah, prime rib or something like that would be delicious.
Private
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
Dude, pizza. I gotta tell you, if you ever visit Chicago, there's this pizza place. It's called Phil's Pizza. Super
Phil's. I
generic name.
haven't heard
It's
of
in
Phil's.
Bridgeport. It's thin crust. I
Thin
know everyone
crust
thinks
in
Chicago deep
Chicago.
dish. I'm telling you, best thin crust pizza you've ever had. I will advocate for this place all the time. It's really good.
So funny, I love Chicago. I'm like a huge. I'm into Chicago. I really like Chicago. I have family up there. I was like the one that wasn't born there, so I'm like
Okay.
very jealous of everyone that got to be born there. And I go up like 3 or 4 times a year. I love it. I'm a big deep dish guy. I like Giordano's out of the 3.
Okay, yeah.
What's
I like Giordano's.
Giordano's?
Lou Malnati's.
I always say like Lululemon by accident. I always think Lululemon. I know it's Illuminati's. I know that, and every time in my head I go like first thing I want to say is Lulu. Yeah, freaking
Very different.
athletic wear. And then what's Uno's the other one, right?
Uno's, yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the other. I haven't had Illuminati's though. I've had Uno's and I've had. I just go to Giordano's every time now. I like it so much.
Yeah. Giordano's is the best. Out of those 3, I think those are the best. And I know, yeah, I don't know if you ever see those Barstool Pizza reviews, but I think that one was rated the highest.
Oh, really?
Too.
I didn't know that. I'll have to look that one up. Have you ever been to Gino's East?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was really good too. That's like a smaller one, a smaller chain, it's like
Yeah.
3 restaurants or something like that. But that was pretty good too.
If there's a pizza place around Chicago, I've probably been to it.
I'm
one of those guys.
I'd be willing to bet. What's your favorite part of Chicago? I gotta ask.
Ooh, well,
There's so much there. There's so much there
Yeah.
for starters. So
it's a big city.
it's a
but
huge city. Yeah.
I used to live in Old Town, which is it's like a little bit further north than the River North area.
Mhm.
And most people know like River North, the Loop, and all that. Like the
I know
Loop's
the
where all
Loop.
the main
Yeah.
buildings are.
Yeah,
River North is kind of like it's kind of like where the party is, I guess. It's like a little more upscale, very nice stuff, like nice restaurants and stuff like that. And then Old Town is where it starts to like turn into more of like a real city, I would say.
Okay.
And so that was my kind of favorite place. Like it was still cool. Like it was still like popping, you know. And I was in my early 20s, so that worked out well for me there. And it's actually right. I lived like a block away from Second City, the comedy club.
Oh,
and
okay.
So that was pretty cool too.
That is cool. I have not been to any of the comedy clubs there, but I really wanted to go. I haven't made the move yet. Well, obviously now I can't at all, but still, are things
eventually
pretty closed up there? I'm curious.
Yeah,
Because my family doesn't go into the city or anything, so I don't know.
Well, yeah, I would say so. For a while we were doing like outdoor dining and all that kind of stuff, but now it's chilly. It's December, so it's been rough. But and cases have been climbing like really bad. For a while we were doing okay, and then it just got out of hand.
Yeah, it has. It's gotten crazy out of hand. So speaking of COVID, how has your company and your way of doing your marketing and how has that changed due to the virus? I know every business seems to be
Yeah,
going now. You're a lot more digital, so I don't know how much it's really
yeah,
changed. But I'm just curious if there was a change or any maybe more clients in this case.
yeah. At first, like when it first happened and the shutdown order happened and everything, I mean, we were like, what is going to happen with all of our clients? Like we were kind of panicking. Like we've got a lot of brick and mortar stores and stuff that we work with. I mean, obviously we've got e-commerce and all that kind of stuff too.
Right.
So it wasn't like our whole business was going to be shut down, but
Hmm.
um, it was unprecedented, right? I think that's the word
Yeah.
everybody uses.
Yeah. Good word.
Um,
Good description for it for sure.
so it was nerve wracking, but it wasn't too terrible for a majority of our clients. Truthfully, some shut down, some had to cancel, and they never came back. And I don't think that their businesses that made it, and obviously that's unfortunate. But
Of course. Yeah.
those were a small minority. Truthfully, very small minority. If anything, I think we've truly seen like a massive uptick. A lot of businesses want to go online
Hmm.
that previously weren't doing a ton online, or maybe they have a website and it's old and they weren't doing a lot with it, and they want to market to people. They want to like start selling online more so than they were and everything like that. So generally speaking, I think we've come out of it pretty positively.
Yeah. I would think, given that it is you guys are more tech, from what it seems, from what I've read
Yeah,
before,
we
that
are.
it is almost helping in a sense because I don't want to, the silver lining at the end of this, but the virus definitely has made a push for everything to be more online and more e-commerce, and businesses that
Yeah.
like you're saying it might not have wanted to do that now are they're like, okay, this is our chance. We don't really have a choice now. I mean, that's one thing is they don't have a choice. So,
Yeah.
which I mean, some businesses that might even save. To be honest,
It's true. I think there was already a shift kind of happening where
yes,
everyone was moving online, and it's just accelerated
it
it
is.
big time.
I agree with that 100%. It's moved way quicker and faster, I think, than most people have like thought. I think even with stuff that we use every day has gotten like exponentially like crazier. Like just the amount of like
Yeah.
delivery services for food and stuff, I feel like are
Oh
just
man.
way bigger and like they're using more. I mean, Zoom that we're using right now,
Yeah.
just coming out of nowhere, going crazy. Like it's an interesting time. It is. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving pieces happening. You're kind of just we're just here watching from the side at home. Can't do anything else.
Well, DoorDash had their IPO today. They went public, and
I
I
did not
I
know
checked
that.
right before this call,
Oh
and the
no,
stock was already up $85 from where it started.
I
So
did not know that. I would have definitely bought in. Now I'm really sad about
I'm a big
that.
DoorDash guy. Yeah, I
I would
love
have definitely
DoorDash.
bought in.
Uh,
Slipped down that one. That's for sure. Do you do any investing? Do you do any investing on yourself?
I do. I dabble with
Dabble
it,
with it.
but I'm an amateur. I
Big
did
Robin Hood penny
when
stock guy.
Robinhood. I'm all about that. I when Bitcoin, like the first time around, I know Bitcoin's like pretty high right now, but the first time around when it was peaking,
Hmm.
I jumped in on that, and I actually like I caught the wave, man. I rode that a little bit, and I sold right at the peak. Somehow, luckily, I just
Nice.
pulled the time out of my ass to sell, and it worked out very well for me. But all luck, I'll be honest. And then since then, I've had mixed results.
Bitcoin's crazy. Yeah, it's up to like $18,000, which is nuts. I had a buddy,
Yeah,
or yeah, I've had a buddy who got into like Bitcoin like early on, and I don't know how many he has. He won't say anything. He won't. He's just like, nah, I'm just chilling. But like, I mean, he texted me when it went up, 2 weeks ago, and it was just skyrocketing. He was like, let's go. Like he was just like hyped as
yeah,
hell.
hell
Like,
yeah.
he had money from before. Like I know he got into it like early on, and it's to me that's crazy. I like I look back and I'm like, I was this kid, college kid that I was working and I was like going out and doing classes and I never like even heard of Bitcoin. I'm like, how did
Yeah,
these
me either.
I like look at it and I'm like, how did you guys find out about this? Like I wish I found out about it. I had
Yeah.
2 roommates. That's when I did find out about it was like right after the big like boom because I had
Okay.
2 roommates who like were really into cryptocurrencies and they're both very good at coding and stuff like that. As a matter of fact, they both I believe didn't even finish school. They were doing everything they needed on the computer. They were like,
Sure.
why would I go to class? I'm making X amount of money right now. But they were super into cryptocurrency and that's when I started to learn about it is they were like mining it in our house.
Oh my God, were they really?
They came to us one day and they were like, so we want to like start mining this more. We're gonna pay for everything. We'll just pay the electric bill and everything. We're like, all right, like that's fine with us. Like, go for it. Like less money I have to
That's
pay.
awesome.
But it was crazy and they opened up my mind to like a whole new world. I still don't understand at all that they knew they were into it. It was
That's
crazy to me.
amazing, man. Yeah, I wish I had that kind of foresight. Here I was trying to be a history teacher, like
Exactly.
complete wrong direction.
Yeah. I have the sense to analyze things as they've passed. I have no idea what to do when like looking forward. I'm like, I don't know what the future holds. But hey, let's analyze what happened. Like
Like Captain Hindsight or whatever.
yeah,
You
in
know?
hindsight. That's too funny.
Or that guy, there was that guy who bought a pizza with Bitcoin like 10, 15 years ago. I don't know if you heard the story, but
No.
he bought a pizza with like six Bitcoin or something. I don't know. I don't know the exact number, but and now it's valued at, I don't know, like $100,000 or whatever. But used it on a pizza.
I would honestly hate myself if I
Oh my
knew
God,
that
I
I
can't
spent
imagine.
6 Bitcoin on a pizza. That means he probably had it at like when it was like $2 a Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like I just couldn't
He probably
imagine.
thought it was funny, he's talking to his friends. He's like, "Oh, I wonder if I could pay with Bitcoin." He gets on the phone or something, like, "Accept Bitcoin." And
Yeah, I would hope if he had like that much Bitcoin, he had a lot more.
I would hope so. Yeah.
I just like I think of that now, and it's like imagine like you literally just throw $100 and you're like, yeah, I hope it works, and then just never like, oh, I forgot about Bitcoin. Let me just check, pull it up one day. You're like 18 grand. Like what the
Oh my
hell?
God.
I
I
could not
wonder if there's
imagine.
Bitcoin sitting around like that, like someone did it a long time ago and just forgot about it.
I gotta believe there's people out there with that. And I bet you there's people that on the first like crazy peak where they only sold probably half their stuff and then they kept the other half just to have, and then now it's up again and they're probably banking it's gonna go up again. I have someone that thinks it's gonna go up to like
Yeah.
$50,000, and I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "I guess I should just put money in just in case." Like,
Yeah, right. I don't know better to say one way or the other. So,
no,
hey.
I am not giving any financial advice right now. I am not. We'll save that for another podcast episode. We could do that, but I wouldn't even tell you what to invest in. I would just tell you how to save your money. But
Yeah, bring in a different guest for that one. That's
yeah,
not
for
my.
sure. Yeah, I can. So we'll go back to the company a little bit.
Sure.
You guys do a variety of things. You're doing digital. What is all the type of digital aspects of marketing that you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's so much, man. We truly do, like, we kind of pride ourselves on doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So even things that a few years ago we weren't doing, we've tried to work to be able to do those things. So
Right.
I mean, we'll do everything from, it all starts with building websites a majority of the time, and
Gotcha.
then we'll hook up to someone's CRM to make sure that they're able to manage all the leads that come in and everything like that. But to drive leads to someone's website, a lot of times we're running ads on various platforms, whether that be Google and Facebook are kind of the big ones, but there's also Amazon, which is growing pretty quickly. Pinterest is strangely going pretty quickly as well. I think a
Interesting.
lot of people wouldn't know that,
I
but
did not know
it
that.
is.
Could you elaborate on why Pinterest is kind of coming back into the scene? Because from my opinion, I mean, I've used it. I'll be honest, I've used it. I don't even, like, and then I've had
Yeah.
roommates who we've used it to make stuff and whatnot for the house. To be really honest, and it is
Mhm.
useful, but I've never thought about it in an advertising way, like Facebook,
Sure.
Instagram, and Instagram, Facebook are the same, but and then like Google. I've never how are they incorporating ads in such into their platform?
Yeah, I think it again it accelerated due to well this was due to the Facebook boycott
Hmm.
really, but it
Oh,
accelerated
sure.
a lot. There were a ton of brands that just to give everyone background information, there were a ton of brands that boycotted Facebook for like a few months
Could
that had
you
massive budgets.
could you also actually elaborate on that because I'm unfamiliar with that. I was not aware of
Okay,
that. I don't do Facebook to be really honest with you that much.
sure.
So I like don't know anything involved. I don't like read Facebook news or anything.
Yeah, no
But I mean,
problem, no
it's your
problem.
job, so you have to do that. I understand
I
that. So
got it,
like,
man. I
but
got you.
but definitely, like, I'm curious why was there that boycott? Why did that start?
It had to do with what I'm fuzzy on it actually, but it had to do with um, Facebook and the not taking stances on the monitoring of speech. And these
Interesting.
major companies, like huge publicly traded companies like Unilever and I don't even know who else, like Patagonia. I think Patagonia still hasn't come back, but tons of brand names that you'd recognize, like Lululemon. They're
Mhm.
probably one of them too.
Yeah.
They all just jumped ship and they said we're not. They all signed this petition to take about 3 months off of Facebook ads. I think
Wow.
you can Google it. If you Google Facebook boycott, I mean a ton of stuff will come
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
But
I'm gonna look at it right now.
they all jumped ship and they ended up spending. They had to spend that ad money somewhere else. And I think there are two things going on ultimately here. Well, three. One is that Google, Facebook, all those usual channels have gotten really saturated over the years. I mean, they're still great and they're great ways to spend money, make money. But if you go back to Facebook in like 2012 and then compare it to now, there are like 10 times. I don't even know how many more businesses are on Facebook now than there were then. So
Right.
that's definitely part of it. And then Pinterest has gotten better at serving ads. They've incorporated more ads into the platform. I think like if you go back, they didn't even have ads originally, so that's something that they've started doing more on and helping advertisers out there. And then the boycott too. You toss all those things in the mix together, and bam! I mean, I think
Yeah.
their advertising revenue went up about 45% year over
That
year.
is
Um,
insane. I did not know that. So
yeah,
I'm looking here at that list just to give the listeners a quick idea of how many people did it. So it said stop hate for profit. That was the hashtag calling. It looks like Ben and Jerry's, Birchbox, Coca-Cola. I'm just gonna read the big ones: Coca-Cola,
yeah,
Hershey's, JanSport, Honda, Lululemon, Patagonia, North
nice.
Face, Mozilla, Verizon, Starbucks. Wow, and a bunch more. So that's crazy to me.
The
I didn't even
funny
know
thing
about that.
is,
That's nuts.
yeah, but it barely impacted Facebook's bottom line either. They reported their financials. I pay attention to stocks way more than I should for someone who doesn't know what I'm doing. But they reported their finances in their quarterly meeting, and it was like they still increased year over year with
Wow.
all those dropping out because there are so many small businesses that
Right.
make up like a huge chunk that they don't really even care about the top 1%
Yeah,
spenders
and if
anymore.
anything, it was like, oh, we'll just have more ad space for other people. Like, all right, like,
Exactly.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so the Facebook during that time, your Facebook stuff didn't slow down really. It was,
No, no, it didn't. I mean, performance has been different because
mhm,
people are spending more time on social media. They're at home,
yeah,
so habits have changed. And when people are on something like Facebook longer, there's more opportunities to serve them ads.
right.
So um, it's been different. I mean, we'll see in various industries like it's been hugely positive in some industries, and then in other industries it's been a little bit more negative, I will say, but
Yeah,
generally positive all around. It hasn't been too bad.
gotcha. I know you got to get going super quick, so I'll just ask you one more quick question.
Sure.
My one thing I wanted to talk about, and we can always go into more detail in another episode or something, but
Yeah, I'd love to.
Instagram has changed their entire structure basically, and they're no longer really putting the algorithm toward content creators and famous people, but they're like doing more product stuff. What does that mean for your guys' business, and does that open things up more for you? Does it open up more for your clients? Because I know now they've got the I've never looked. I actually am like
Yeah.
I'm boycotting buying stuff on Instagram. I refuse. I hate that they did that. But for your guys, I'm sure it's great. What
It is.
yeah, I'm sure it makes it almost even easier, I bet. So how does that affect you guys doing ads and product and helping your your clients on that platform? I'm very curious.
Yeah, I will say first off, I'm a huge sucker for Instagram ads. I bought everything on Instagram, like watches, boots, all kinds.
We are the
They're so
exact
good,
opposite
man.
there.
They're so
We are
good.
history
And
teachers, but I will not buy on Instagram. I hate it.
I'm a sucker for good ads. I think it's just because I do it all day, you know. And I see a good ad, I'm like, damn, that's a good ad. I
I
should buy
bet.
this. But but no, they have made it easier. What they allow you to do now is tag photos
Mhm.
with your products in them, and so then people can tap to click, and then they can just go ahead and buy them. And that's similar to what Pinterest is trying to do as well, by the way.
Okay.
So that's kind of like how that all ties in together. But I mean, it's been great, and the only thing I will say with Instagram is it's still kind of difficult to drive people to a website for anything that's service based. Like if you're selling products, that's great. But if you're like a HVAC technician or something, or like a plumber,
Yeah.
Instagram's, it's not like the best place for you. You might want to
Like
go